The moment my own son called me useless in front of 200 people at my retirement party, I knew exactly what I had to do. But what happened next, nobody saw coming. Picture this: an elegant ballroom, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over the faces of everyone who mattered in my life. Colleagues, clients, friends, all there to celebrate my 35 years of building a construction empire from absolutely nothing. And there I was, standing at the podium, microphone in my trembling hands, watching my entire world crumble in 30 seconds. For 35 years, I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into building something meaningful. For 30 years, I raised a son, thinking I was preparing him to carry on my legacy. In 30 seconds, I watched both dreams die before my eyes. But here's what my son Marcus didn't know. I had been planning this moment for months. The evidence I was about to reveal would destroy everything he thought he knew about his future. And trust me, you need to stay until the very end, because the look on his face when I dropped that final bombshell, it was worth every sleepless night I endured. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand just how deep this betrayal cuts. My name is Robert Chen, and at 65 years old, I thought life had figured out. I built Chen Construction from nothing. Started in my garage with a toolbox and a dream, working 16-hour days, missing family dinners, sacrificing everything for one reason: to create something lasting for my son. When my wife Linda died of cancer 10 years ago, Marcus became my entire world. He was 22 then, fresh out of business school, full of ambition and ideas. I remember thinking, this is it. This is why I worked so hard. I brought him into the company immediately, teaching him everything I knew: how to read blueprints, negotiate contracts, manage crews, treat people with respect. Marcus seemed perfect for the job: smart, educated, charismatic. Our employees loved him. At least, that's what I thought. And when he married Sarah 3 years ago, I was thrilled. She was beautiful, ambitious, seemed devoted to him. I even paid for their dream wedding, bought them their first house, made Marcus a full partner with a generous salary. But if I'm being honest, things started changing about 18 months ago. Marcus became different, more demanding, less patient. He'd roll his eyes when I'd tell stories about the early days, interrupt me in meetings, make comments about modernizing the business. Sarah would smile sweetly, but I caught her whispering to Marcus during family dinners, giving me these calculating looks when she thought I wasn't watching. My assistant, Ilana, she's been with me for 20 years, practically family. She started giving me worried glances. "Mr. Chen," she'd say quietly, "something's not right. Marcus has been having meetings after hours, asking for files you haven't requested." But I brushed off her concerns. He's my son, I thought. He's just eager to take on more responsibility. God, I was such a fool. Because what I didn't know was that while I was planning my retirement party, thinking about finally stepping back and watching Marcus flourish, he was planning something entirely different. Something that would destroy not just me, but the lives of 50 hardworking people who depended on our company. The night of my retirement party finally arrived. The Grandview Ballroom, the most elegant venue in town. 200 guests, our entire company family, major clients, competitors who'd become friends over the decades. I'd spent weeks preparing my speech, planning to officially announce Marcus as my successor, to pass the torch with pride and dignity. I wore my best suit, the one Linda always said made me look distinguished. Standing there, looking out at all those faces, I felt complete. This was my moment, everything I'd worked for, leading to this perfect ending. I gave my speech first, talked about humble beginnings, about the incredible team that built Chen Construction, about my dreams for the future. The applause was thunderous. People were crying, smiling, celebrating 30.5 decades of hard work paying off. Then Marcus stood up to speak, my son, my pride and joy, walking to the podium with confidence. He started beautifully, talked about learning from me, about gratitude, about carrying on the family legacy. I was beaming, thinking, this is the proudest moment of my life. And then, everything changed. Marcus looked directly at me, and his expression shifted. The warmth disappeared.
"Dad?" he said into that microphone, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent room. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. "Your time is over. You're useless now." Useless. My own son called me useless in front of everyone who mattered to me. But he wasn't finished. "This company needs fresh blood, new ideas. The old ways are dead, and frankly, Dad, so are you, professionally speaking." He actually smiled when he said it. The room went dead silent. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. Elena covered her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. My best friend Tom's face turned red with fury. And there was Sarah, sitting at the head table, trying to hide a smirk behind her champagne glass. But Marcus kept going. "I'll be implementing immediate changes. We're going to modernize, streamline, eliminate the dead weight that's been holding us back." Dead weight. He was talking about our employees, people who'd been loyal for decades, who had families to feed, mortgages to pay. In that moment, I realized this wasn't spontaneous. This was planned, calculated, cruel. My son had orchestrated this public humiliation. And as I stood there, feeling smaller with each word, I saw my life's work crumbling, not from failure or market forces, but from the betrayal of the person I loved most in this world. The party ended in uncomfortable silence. People didn't know where to look, what to say. 35 years of relationships, and my son had poisoned them all in 5 minutes. I went home that night broken, humiliated, questioning everything I thought I knew about my life. But the worst was yet to come. At 10 p.m., Marcus and Sarah showed up at my door, not to apologize, to finish what they started. They walked into my living room like they owned the place, Sarah's heels clicking against the hardwood floors I'd installed with my own hands decades ago. "Robert, Dad, we need to talk business," Marcus said, not even sitting down. Sarah pulled out a folder, legal documents, transfer papers, contracts. "We need you to sign these tonight. The transition needs to happen immediately." That's when I understood. This wasn't about my retirement. This was a hostile takeover by my own son. "Marcus," I said, trying to stay calm, "we had planned a gradual transition over 6 months." But Sarah laughed, actually laughed. "6 months, Robert? You don't understand. You're holding us back. Every day you delay costs us money." Then Marcus dropped the real bomb. "Dad, I've been meeting with Steinberg Construction, my biggest competitor. They've made an offer for our client list and equipment, a very generous offer." My blood ran cold. "You want to sell the company?" I whispered. He shrugged. "It's just business, Dad, nothing personal." Nothing personal. 50 employees who'd given me their best years, nothing personal. The legacy I'd built from nothing, nothing personal. The trust every client had placed in the Chen Construction name, nothing personal. But Sarah wasn't done. "Robert, you need to face reality. You're 65. Your reflexes are slower. Your memory isn't what it was. Marcus has been covering for your mistakes for months." "Covering for my mistakes? What mistakes? Besides, we're starting our family soon. We need financial security, not the burden of managing your decline." They had it all planned out. Sell the company for $8 million, keep 6 for themselves, give me $2 million, and expect me to be grateful. "It's more than enough for your retirement," Marcus said. "You can buy a nice condo in Florida, play golf, watch TV. Isn't that what old people do?"
As they talked, I realized they'd been planning this for months, maybe years. Every conversation, every family dinner, every moment I thought we were bonding, they were evaluating my worth, waiting for the right moment to discard me. They gave me 48 hours to sign the papers. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Dad," Marcus said as they left. "You're too old to fight us, and honestly, too weak. Just accept it gracefully." Too old? Too weak? As I sat alone in my study that night, surrounded by photos of Linda, by awards and memories of 30 decades of success, I had a choice. I could accept their judgment, sign those papers, and fade away quietly. Or I could remind them exactly why you should never underestimate a man who's built an empire from nothing. That night, sitting in my study at 2 a.m., I made a decision. I remembered Linda's last words to me before she died.
Robert, don't let anyone diminish what you've built. You're stronger than you know. She was right. I wasn't too old, too weak, or useless. I was experienced, connected, and angrier than I'd ever been in my life. The next morning, I called Elena. I need your help, I told her, and I need to know everything you've noticed about Marcus's behavior lately. What she told me made my blood boil. Marcus had been having secret meetings for 6 months. He'd been asking Elena to document my supposed failures, any late arrival, any forgotten detail, any sign of aging he could use against me. But Elena is smarter than Marcus gave her credit for. Instead of reporting my supposed failures, she'd been documenting his suspicious activities. "Mr. Chen, I have security footage of him meeting with Steinberg's people. I have copies of emails he thought he deleted. I have recordings of phone calls where he badmouthed you to clients." Elena had been protecting me for months without my knowledge. But it got worse. She discovered Marcus had been slowly moving company money into personal accounts. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger alarms, but over time it added up to nearly $200,000. He wasn't just planning to sell the company, he had already been stealing from it. And Sarah? Sweet, innocent Sarah? Elena had done some digging. Turns out, this wasn't Sarah's first marriage. Her previous husband was a successful accountant until she convinced him to transfer assets to her name, then filed for a divorce and left him bankrupt. She was a professional predator, and Marcus was too blind to see it. But I couldn't just expose them quietly. They'd humiliated me publicly. They needed to face consequences publicly. I spent the next week building my case. Elena and I worked like detectives, gathering evidence, making copies, documenting everything. Tom, my business partner for 15 years, was furious when I told him what was happening. "Robert, we can't let them destroy everything we've built," he said. "What do you need?" I needed allies, witnesses, and a plan that would not only stop Marcus, but protect our employees. Here's what Marcus didn't know. I still owned 60% of the company. He was a partner, not the owner. Those papers he wanted me to sign weren't just retirement documents, they were complete ownership transfers. Without my signature, he had no legal right to sell anything. So I called Marcus and told him I was ready to sign. "Let's do it properly," I said. "Schedule a formal ceremony at the office, invite the key employees, our lawyer, maybe a few important clients. Let's make it official." He was thrilled, probably thinking he'd broken me completely. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd spent those weeks doing more than gathering evidence. I'd been meeting with our employees, explaining the situation, asking for their trust one more time. I'd been talking to clients about loyalty, about the difference between experience and ambition. I was preparing for war. The signing ceremony was scheduled for Friday morning. Marcus thought he was about to inherit an empire. Instead, he was walking into the most devastating moment of his life. And honestly, after what he'd put me through, after what he'd planned to do to our people, I couldn't wait. Friday morning arrived. The conference room was packed. All our senior employees, our company lawyer, 3 major clients, and Elena with her laptop and folders full of evidence. Marcus walked in wearing a brand new suit, Sarah on his arm in an outfit that probably cost more than some of our workers made in a month. The papers were laid out on the conference table. Marcus kept checking his watch, eager to get this done. "Thanks for making this official, Dad," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I know this transition is what's best for everyone." Several employees shifted uncomfortably. They knew what was coming after I signed. I stood up to give what everyone thought would be my final words as owner of Chen Construction. "Before I sign these papers," I began, "I'd like to share some thoughts about leadership, about trust, and about the legacy we leave behind." I started with stories about building the company, about the loyal people who'd stood by me through difficult times. But then I shifted gears. You know, in 35 years of business, I've learned that the greatest danger to any organization isn't competition or market forces. It's betrayal from within. Marcus's confident smile started to fade. "Dad," he interrupted, "maybe we should just get to the signing." But I wasn't finished. "Please, son, indulge an old man's final speech." The room was dead silent. "I've been thinking a lot about loyalty lately, about how some people will smile to your face while planning to destroy everything you've built." I nodded to Elena, who pulled out her laptop. "For example, I recently discovered that someone in this room has been having secret meetings with our competitors." The security footage started playing on the projector screen. Clear as day, Mark is shaking hands with Jim Steinberg, exchanging documents, laughing about getting rid of the old man. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Marcus went pale but still tried to maintain control. "Dad, I can explain." "Oh, there's more to explain," I said, my voice getting stronger with each word. Elena pulled out bank statements, transfer records, email printouts. "Like how you've been stealing company money for months. Nearly $200,000, Marcus. That's not just betrayal. That's felony embezzlement." Our employees were staring at Marcus in disbelief. These were people who had trusted him, who had thought of him as their future boss. Sarah was frantically whispering to Marcus, but I wasn't done with her either. "And Sarah," I said, turning to face her directly, "I think everyone should know about your previous marriage, about how you convinced your first husband to transfer his assets before you divorced him and left him bankrupt, about how you've been researching nursing homes for me, planning to have me declared mentally incompetent so you could take control of my personal assets too." Sarah's face went white. Marcus looked at her in shock. Apparently, he didn't know about her past either. "Robert, you're lying," she screamed. But Elena had the documentation, marriage certificates, divorce papers, bankruptcy filings from Sarah's previous victim. But here's the part that really made everyone freeze, just like I promised you at the beginning. I looked directly at Marcus and said, "Son, you called me useless. You said I was dead weight, that I was holding the company back. Well, I have news for you. Those papers you're so eager to have me sign, they're worthless. Yesterday, I legally transferred Chen Construction into an employee trust. Every person in this room who's been loyal, who's worked hard, who's treated our clients and each other with respect, they now own equal shares in this company. You get nothing, Marcus. Not a single dollar, not a single tool, not a single client contract." The silence in that room was deafening. Marcus couldn't speak. Sarah looked like she'd been slapped. But our employees started smiling, then laughing, then applauding. 23 people who thought they were about to lose their jobs had just become business owners. Marcus finally found his voice. "You can't do this! I'm your son!" And I looked at him, really looked at him, and said the hardest words I've ever spoken. My son would never have stolen from me. My son would never have planned to destroy the lives of good people for money. My son would never have called me useless. I don't know who you are, but you're not the boy I raised. That's when our company lawyer stood up. "Marcus, Sarah, I should inform you that the evidence of embezzlement has been forwarded to the district attorney's office. You'll be hearing from them shortly." Marcus broke down completely, finally showing real emotion, begging me to reconsider. But it was too late. Trust, once broken, can't be easily repaired.
That was 8 months ago. Today, Chen Construction is more profitable than it's ever been. When people own their workplace, when they have a real stake in success, they work like their lives depend on it, because they do. I still come in 3 days a week as a consultant, sharing decades of experience with people who actually value it. Marcus was convicted of embezzlement and sentenced to 2 years probation and community service. He lost everything: his reputation, his marriage, his future in the industry. Sarah filed for divorce the day after his sentencing and disappeared with what little money she could grab.
Turns out, when there's no fortune to steal, she's not interested in standing by her man. I wish I could say I felt nothing but satisfaction. But the truth is, losing my son, even a son who betrayed me, has been the hardest thing I've ever endured. Some nights I still wake up wondering if I could have handled it differently, if I could have saved him from his own greed. But Elena, wonderful Elena, who's been more family to me than my own blood, she reminds me that love sometimes means letting people face the consequences of their choices. Mr. Chen, you didn't destroy Marcus. He destroyed himself. You just refused to let him take everyone else down with him. Here's something I didn't expect. That retirement party speech, Marcus calling me useless, someone recorded it and posted it online. It went viral, shared millions of times by people dealing with ungrateful family members, with adult children who take their parents for granted. I've received hundreds of letters from parents facing similar betrayals. So I started something new, a support group for parents dealing with financial abuse from their adult children. It's more common than you'd think. Every week we meet at the community center, sharing stories, offering support, helping each other rebuild our lives and our self-worth. I've learned that being called useless by someone you love doesn't make it true. It just means they've lost sight of your value, and maybe it's time to find people who appreciate what you bring to the world. Age doesn't make you useless. It makes you wise enough to see through the lies and strong enough to fight back when necessary. Marcus was wrong about so many things. I'm not useless. I'm more useful than I've ever been. I'm not dead weight. I'm the foundation that holds things together. I'm not too old or too weak. I'm experienced enough to know the difference between love and manipulation, and strong enough to choose what's right over what's easy. My son called me useless at my retirement party, expecting me to crumble and fade away quietly. Instead, I gave a speech that changed 50 lives for the better, exposed corruption, and proved that you should never underestimate someone who's built their life on hard work and integrity. Sometimes the people who call you useless are really just afraid of how useful you still are. Don't let anyone convince you that your time is over. My story is proof that sometimes the best chapters come after someone tries to write the end. If you've ever been betrayed by family, if someone has tried to convince you that you're too old, too weak, or too useless to fight back, share your story in the comments below. And remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you respond when they show you who they really are. Next week, I'll be sharing another story about family betrayal and the sweet taste of justice. Until then, remember, never let anyone diminish what you've built, and never underestimate the power of experience over arrogance.